Hey, Internet, Eric here. I guess I'm gonna do a bit of a shout out video. I guess you would say. I haven't done a shout out video in a long time, if I've ever done a shout out video before. But if anyone who knows me, I don't really talk about it too much on the YouTube channel. Is I'm a big fan of pro wrestling, and what I have come across recently, within the last handful of months, is there is a federation called, or an independent federation called Windy City Pro Wrestling, and it's Chicagoland based. I remember watching it years ago, like decades ago, back when I had a UHF TV. Kids today, you don't know about having to turn the dials and the rabbit ears on the TV and all that stuff. But back in those days, that's how I would have to watch ECW. That's how I would watch Windy City Pro Wrestling. I saw a handful of episodes. I remember there was a wrestler named Steve Boz. I know Christopher Daniels has made his way through there before years ago. And then once that, because it's an independent federation, they rely on local television in the area to get the name out. If it's not just the wrestling magazines, and eventually WCPW, at least at that time, went away from that station, and I'd kind of forgot about it. Well, recently, let me see here, June, June of this year, WCPW had a show in my town, and they're very local. They were recently bought by, I believe it was in 2012, by a former pro wrestler by the name of Big Time, and they're now trying to get word of mouth, fan base growing, and stuff like that. Put on great shows, get WCPW back to where it was on the indie scene. And back in June, I went to my first show of theirs, and I had a blast. And I started following them on Twitter and having an occasional conversation with them on Twitter and on Facebook, and just really enjoy the interaction with whoever runs Twitter. I can't say for sure it's Big Time. I'm pretty sure it is. You know what I mean? But anyways, what I also love about them is they're also big movie fans too. So if you love wrestling and you love movies and you're not in like the Chicagoland area, I'll have the link into their Twitter and Facebook below. Give them a follow and just talk. You can talk movies with them too. But I wanted to show what I recently got from them. And recently, and then I want to talk about the two shows I was at. So first off, I ordered and got this really cool shirt from them. I love the insignia, WCPW. I love the purple and the yellow, and looks really cool. You know what I mean? I think it looks really neat. Very comfortable. I got a 2X. Very comfortable. Um, definitely worth the money. They threw in a couple of 8x10s. Crystal White. Sorry, have no idea who she is, but she's obviously wrestled for them before. And I thought this was kind of cool. Even Big Time threw in from back in his heyday of being a wrestler. Um, Picture this. I think next time I'm gonna go. I've talked to him personally a few times. See if I can get an autograph from him. And I got a DVD of the very first show that I was at. June 4th, 2002, WCPW Staying Alive. And I haven't watched the DVD yet, and very excited to watch it, especially like I said, because I was at that show. That night was a lot of fun. Great matches. I'll just throw out a couple things. The tactician, Eric Jacks. Is he on the cover? Right there. Against Stunt Marshall, who I had a blast with that match. That was, I guess, what you would call your comedy match. Um, Eric Jacks, straightforward heel. Stunt Marshall, he's got the Hogan. He's black. He's got the blonde Hogan mustache. Comes out saying brother. Does the gimmicks and stuff like that. He was a lot of fun. What I love about this match, and what is great about independent wrestling, is because the crowds are so small, they can interact with the crowd a lot more. Like there was what was it? Eric Jax, he had the upper hand on Stunt Marshall. I know there was a little boy who just yelled at the top of his lungs because the good guy was losing. You know what I mean? And Eric Jax just looks at him and points. You know what I mean? And I was across the ring from them. And the dad was laughing. The kid was having a good time. That interaction is a lot of fun. Weapon X, Eric Fallon, was really cool. He was against Nate Brock. Nate Brock is what is he called? The wild card from the West Coast. He's just a stereotypical heel braggart. Lots of fun, goofy haircut, so it was fun. We got to pick on him. And Eric Fallon came out. He had this really cool mask, and he had sparklers in it, and smoke was coming out. It was a lot of fun. Lots of high flying. Eric Fallon. He had this move where he was doing like an airplane spin. He spun them around, and then it dropped his hands, and he was still spinning, and Nate Brock was still on his shoulders. Lots of really cool, fun, impressive stuff. And then one last thing I want to talk about, how would I say this? Match-wise, is they're not on the cover. Yep, okay. Damian Fenrir and David Ali. Great match. David is the heel, Damian is the babyface, and they were going at it, and it was great because eventually they were in the crowd, like over the guardrail, throwing each other into the guardrail, going everywhere. It was fun watching the crowd get out of the way and this and that, and it ended up being a double disqualification. You know, wrestlers came from the back, they had to pull each other apart. That was so much fun. And one thing that I'm going to talk about here, that it shows on the back, right here, that there was I would say Big Time finally revealed the WCPW heavyweight belt. Looked gorgeous. I thought it looked really, really cool. If you want to see it, like I said, follow them on Facebook and Twitter. And then there was an incident, because this was my first time dealing with these characters, storylines, what you would say. And I was sitting, if I'm like this, the ring's right in front of me, and to my left, Big Time's in there, in the ring, and I think he's talking about his retirement or something like that, how he has to step down. He's showing off the belt, and there is this fan, at least we think it's a fan. He undoes the guardrail, he runs in, and he attacks Big Time. I find out it's a wrestler named Gavin Alexander, and he beats the shit out of Big Time. Eventually, Big Time comes back and hits him with the chair, sets up a grudge match for last month's show, which I believe was called WCPW Champion or The Champion. It happened on September 10th, I believe. And that was a lot of fun, too. I want to talk about that because that is when they had it was a 4-man tournament from to crown the official, I guess you'd say, first champion since they came back since COVID and stuff like that. And great matches. Ben Bishop is this tall dude. He was amazing. I took my daughter. And I want to say this. My daughter was kind of apprehensive. Like, she watches wrestling, air quotes, with me. She likes wrestling because I watch it. But she was apprehensive. She didn't really want to go. She thought, oh, that might be cool. By the end of this night, she said that was awesome. And I can't wait till they come back. Ben Bishop is this 7-foot tall guy. And he's good in the ring, great in the ring. He's really great on the mic. If he comes back to the next show, I hope they give him some mic time. But what I like about him is he's very cocky. But you know what? It's kind of like when you get older, you kind of like the cocky heels, like Roddy Piper and stuff like that. I love how instead of being 7 feet tall, he's 6 foot 12 inches and stuff like that. And I met him because during the intermission, you can meet the wrestlers and stuff like that. And my daughter was just looking up at him, and she said, "Wow, I feel like an ant next to you." And he got a kick out of that. That was a lot of fun. There was a great women's match. My daughter met both of them, got pictures taken. One of them, I think was it Laney Luck. She slapped my daughter's hand. My daughter looked at me. She's like, "That hurt, but it was worth it." She had a blast. A couple matches I'm going to talk about is first off the main event, Damian Fenrir versus David Ali. Again, a rematch, which is what I was hoping would happen since the last, I guess you said the last wrestling card. And it was great. David Ali being the great heel. He comes out, he says he's our savior. and he wants everyone to hail him. My daughter started a chant that, and started yelling "fail" at him. She was really getting into it, and Damien came out, and it's not just a great match, but like I said, what I love about the indie feds is they can get the crowd involved because they're so close. You know what I mean? There was a time when Damien was thrown outside the ring, and he was thrown into the guardrails, like right next to us. My daughter was like this, and she was having fun, but he's down on the ground, and he can't get up. He can't get up. He can't get up. There's a little boy. He reaches through the guardrail, and Damien grabs his hand, and the little kid, helps Damien to his feet. That's something that kid will always remember. You know what I mean? That's really cool. And it was a great match. I won't spoil who won. You know what I mean? I mean, it's been a month. But great match, great finish. My daughter's a Damien Fenrir fan now. She loves him. Lots of fun. But let's get to my favorite match. Was the grudge match between Big Time and Gavin Alexander. And I never heard of Gavin until, what happened at Staying Alive. I didn't know who he was, really. And I had to watch some replays and Facebook and this and that to find out what his wrestling name is. Did some research, and he's been wrestling for a long time. He's a really big dude, like bigger than me. And Big Time was making fun of him for his size and stuff like that. And what I liked about Gavin is he is this asshole heel. And he's an asshole heel that is missed in wrestling today because he's an asshole heel who can also cut a really good promo. He's not afraid of swearing. I mean, WCPW is family friendly, and but they warn people if they're gonna swear and stuff like that. Gavin was great. I loved his promo he did up to Big Time, up to his fight with Big Time. He did another one where he's literally getting a tattoo while cutting a promo. Like I said, that type of heel is missed. He came to the ring. He came through. He didn't come through the locker room. He came through like the regular entranceway, walked around. It was cool. There was one kid next to me, and he was talking shit to Gavin. Gavin was like, "Speak up. I can't hear you. Come here, closer." He said it again. No, he's like, "No, really. I have a hard time hearing. Get closer." And in typical heel fashion, grabbed the kid's hat and just threw it. That stuff is fun. Big Time comes out, and he's got a bag of Snickers because he's making fun of Gavin because he's a big dude. And Big Time is a lot of fun. You know what I mean? He has this thing where you go like this, frame it up because you're making movies. Slap my daughter's hand. She loved it. She was doing this every time he was out there. And he was having fun and being this fun baby face because he would come out and pick on him. And, he would go like this, blow on his thumb and his belly would come out, just picking on Gavin, throwing the candy bars at him. And it was a really fun match. And it was tough because I really like Gavin Alexander from what I've seen. But I also wanted to cheer for Big Time, you know what I mean? Because it's his federation. I've been talking to him online for quite some time, but I was rooting for Gavin just because I'm a sucker for a really good heel. And again, great match. Great match. And it was no disqualification. Well, I thought it was no disqualification because what was going on is it was literally just a fight. They were fighting outside the ring. They threw Gavin threw Big Time over the guardrail, and they fought all the way through the crowd on the other side of the ring. And we had a hard time seeing it. And because, we got a front row seats, but, there's plenty of place to walk. I looked at my daughter and said, "Do you want to go over there and look?" And she's like, "Yeah." So we got up, we ran around, and we watched Gavin. He slammed a chair on Big Time's head. Big Time's laying on the ground. And my footage is, I know they will be making a DVD of that, and they had some problems, so they're asking fans to send in footage. You're going to get credits at the end. Eventually, at least as of this recording, it's not on YouTube yet, but he's going to upload it to YouTube. Give us credit for it. He is using footage of what I've taken, and he's going to credit me, and he's actually going to credit my daughter, which she's going to get a super kick out of. But slams a chair on Big Time, hitting his head against the wall. Gavin is there with, I guess, his family. And they're cheering him on, and then I don't know who one guy is. He's obviously Gavin's camp. He's walking around. He's like, "Gavin, knock it off. We don't want to lose the building." Stuff like that. You can tell this is like a misfit type family. And I love that in wrestling. Like the Dudleys or or anything like that. This just big misfit family. And eventually, I think there's an eye poke or a headbutt or something. And Gavin's now down on his knees. And Big Time goes, and this is on my footage, grabs like a bag of Fritos and just shoves it in Gavin's face. Lots of fun. Big time fight. They finally get back into the ring. And I guess the point of this match was because Gavin was wanting to get a contract for WCPW, become a part of the roster. And Big Time, in real life, he doesn't like to hire locals. He wants to get the best of the best and stuff like that. And he was picking on Gavin because of his size. You don't belong here. You're so out of shape. Blah, blah, blah. Well, eventually it led to, like, Big Time was cheating, threw powder in Gavin's face, and then looked at the referee and he says, "I'm the owner. Don't you disqualify me," or something like that. Eventually, Big Time hits Gavin with a chair. Referee does disqualify him. And then, again, great storytelling. Big Time knows he's screwed up. Gavin gets up. He's bleeding. You know what I mean? And he does this. He takes the blood, wipes it on his face like war paint. Reminded me of Jerry Lynn when he did that to Steve Carino. And in classic, fun story time telling, Big Time hands him the contract. Gavin signs it. And then Big Time, and I kind of figured this because I know how how this relationship is going to go. They're going to just try to make each other miserable. Big Time says you should have read the contract because now you are working for WCPW, but you're going to be the janitor. I kind of figured that. I wanted to yell that out type of thing, but that was a lot of fun. You had Gavin's, like I said, I don't know if they're family or not, but misfits flipping off Big Time, yelling and screaming. They walked out through the entranceway. Big Time goes back. And like I said, lots of fun. It was a lot of fun. And I want to give props to Big Time and the wrestlers there because they always make time for the fans during the intermission. And that is what is cool because they know, like the indie wrestlers, they know, and Big Time, the promoter, if it's not for the fans, they're not going to be known. The word of mouth thing. And at least in this show, what was cool in this show, he couldn't really do it so much last month because he was prepping for his fight with Gavin. Big Time came, and he talked to every single person in the crowd, shook everybody's hand, making sure they had a good time, because I've had some personal conversations with him, and he wants his product to be good. The DVD, this and that. He wants to have a great product. And that you can appreciate because he actually cares about it. And it was just a blast. My daughter had a good time. Like I said, a couple pictures taken, met Big Time, met two of the women, met Ben Bishop. Lots of fun. And I can't wait to see where this Gavin Alexander thing happens because it's ongoing storytelling. And as of right now, they don't have a next date set, but I will be there, and I can't freaking wait. So, I just want to say big shout out to Windy City Pro Wrestling. If you're in the Chicagoland area and you love wrestling, and I just suggest follow them on Facebook for updates, follow them on Twitter for updates. Like I said, Big Time's a huge movie guy. We'll talk movies, especially horror, till the end of time with you. But tell anybody, even if you're not in the area and you follow them, they're always putting up clips of the show, of the product, of who's involved. There's quite a few people that were here in this show that have made it to the PWI 500. So highly recommend you follow them on social media, promote the hell out of them, and just interact with them. Like I said, this word of mouth thing is going to help them grow like it does YouTube channels, wrestlers, anything. And they will totally appreciate it because what's cool is if I remember, they did one show coming back from COVID. At the last minute, they had to find a new venue. So they only had like 40 people there. Then they're where they are now. I'm not going to say, where I live at the moment, but they're at the community center where I live. And there was maybe 100 people, I think he said, at this show. Word of mouth got out because this show was so much fun. They had over 150 people at last month's show. So word of mouth happens. So big shout out to that federation, all the wrestlers involved, the heels, the baby faces, the women. Great show. Can't wait for them to be back. And rambled enough. Cheers.